Hi, Devlin here, and welcome to another edition of Life Lessons. Now, before I begin, I always like to state that I am not a professional, I'm not an expert, and I'm not trying to say that what worked for me worked for you. But what I am doing is trying to record and, I guess, share some of the experiences that have helped me survive through the 53 years that I've been on this earth, and I've dealt with a lot of stuff from mental health issues to suicidal thoughts and just lots of different things. And that's what these are. If you choose to listen, thank you. If you get something from it, I'm happy because that's the reason I'm doing it. I figure if I can make one person maybe contemplate something that I've said or it helps them, I have done a good thing. Today I'm going to simply talk about learning from mistakes. Now, a lot of my life lessons, some of you might be thinking, if you've watched a few of them, think they're pretty simple. And I always believed that in life there were always going to be these complicated, how to deal with life. But as I grow older, I realize that simplicity is everything. But don't get me wrong, learning from your mistakes is actually very hard to do because as humans, we tend to find ourselves in similar situations. Like we are addicted to something and then we quit it, and then if we don't fill it with something positive, we could fall into a next addiction. Just a thing to do. I came to terms with the fact that I've made many fails. I've had many fails in my life. And like anybody, it's what we do. But then I realized that if I put a positive spin to it, I've pretty much learned from every mistake that I've made. And I figure that if we learn from something, then it isn't truly a fail. In fact, it's kind of a victory. When you make a huge mistake or a little mistake and then you realize immediately, oh my God, I know exactly what I did wrong, and then that's how we live our lives after that, then it's not really a fail at all. But it's not just easy learning from mistakes because a lot of people do this, and I've been guilty of it in the past, but for the most part, I think I actually usually pick myself off, dust myself off, give myself a little pep talk, and I move on. And quite frankly, I learn from the past experience. Now, this seems like such an easy thing, but I see a lot of people in my life, whether they're just, co-workers or people I know, to people that are very close to me, that I consistently see stepping in to the same mistakes they have already made. Now, it's hard to tell because sometimes the situation may be different, but in hindsight, it's the exact same mistake. It's just sometimes when you're in it, it's very hard for you to see. So it's important that you analyze situations. When you go through a bad spell, you're just happy when it's over and you move on. The only problem with this is that you don't learn from it. And I like to call this like bandage solutions. We have these problems, and once we find something that makes us happy and we think that okay, I've tackled that. I call it a bandage solution because all we're really doing is you're just putting a bandage on it and just like, okay, we're moving on in that. And then what happens is usually that problem doesn't go away. It just eventually the band-aid will fall off and it may have created an even bigger problem. Instead, put that band-aid on and then think about the situation. Is this a long-time resolution? I don't, belittle anyone who wants to just solve a problem as quickly as possible and then move on with their life. But some problems that they think are small, others can see it and say, that's huge. And they're going to really feel the impact of it as it keeps getting bigger and bigger. But if you tackle every little thing, every step of the way, then you're actually not only analyzing it, but you're starting to get it in your head, which means that you are starting to learn from your mistakes. I know it seems easy when I say it, but it isn't. It is actually one of the hardest things to do. But once you start training yourself into realizing, was this a bandage solution? Am I going to need to do a bigger solution? Is this going to be something that's going to get bigger? Instead of just, okay, we've solved that problem, now we don't have to think about it anymore. I dare you to think about it more. It might be a small solution, and you might realize, okay, you know what? That's all I can do. I don't think it's going to get any bigger. You move on. But I think you'll be surprised a lot of times. You'll think, well, yeah, I may have solved this problem, but yeah, I could see how it might get bigger. I had a argument with, a friend or a partner, and we solved it. But did we? Did we move it on? I got all my credit cards paid up. But am I going to learn from it, or am I just going to fill those credit cards up again? This is just a couple examples. But it's important that we analyze and look at everything. There are times that banded solutions are needed. But there are many times that you need to look at the bigger thing and think, okay, we need to do something really huge. And yes, it's scary because usually that means change. And that's something nobody really likes. Even people who say they do. It can be difficult. But anyhow, it's important we learn from those mistakes, because if we don't, then we're just going to keep repeating it, and small problems will become bigger problems. But if we face it, as small as it is, then they're not going to be as big, and then you're ready to deal with any situation that comes up. And when a big situation comes up, you'll at least be able to tackle it a little better. I hope I've made some mistakes. Because I've learned from them. And that has made overall a better person in me. See, a lot of people think life is all about successes and victories. And yes, that's what we all want and strive for. But the reality is it's actually the mistakes, the fails, the problems that actually we learn from and we become better people from. The celebrations, celebrate them all you can, be happy for them, but we don't learn as much from them. If we got everything in life that we wanted easily, we don't learn anything. But when we start dealing with problems, whether small to big, or at least start knocking them off, that's when we start becoming more developed as people. And we become in tune to things. We can sometimes see problems before they're going to happen and be able to diffuse them before they become huge. So keep that in mind. Sometimes we go through bad times, but those are the ones we learn from. Thank you for your time, and thank you for listening.